follow me down, head into the unknown, down the rabbit hole, where it stops no one knows. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. Do you dare to follow me down? Head into the unknown.
What's up, everybody? How's your Tuesday going? Hope everybody's doing good. Travis will be here. He's in chat, I see. I asked him to wait a little bit just because, I take a while to say my hellos. And I see everybody is talking about Vincent's live stream. And I just watched it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and play it, but for different reasons, okay? I think this community is a good place to play it because it's going to be out there. I know Daffy's already played it, but I mean, it's wildly disturbing. That's the best way I can explain it. And I feel like by ignoring it, I'm adding to the problem. Okay, so when we put this stuff out into the YouTube world as a YouTube creator, we should be able to stand behind what we're showing. But I believe that already what this is doing is it's giving people more unfounded information to run with and adding to the heartbreak and the questions that Belinda and Jack and Lily's family have. And I want to play it to get it out there, but to implore this community to be kind, but to also encourage others to disregard. Because if he's given his information to the RCMP, none of it would be hard to follow up on, and pay attention to the dates that he gives and use your common sense. Okay, you guys, like I said, it's extraordinarily disturbing. I'm struggling with playing this, but I don't want to be the one that plays it, but I want to be the one to ask you guys to be kind and to encourage this community to disregard it. And should I not play it? I think I have to play it now because of this whole thing. I don't know, Marie. I don't know if he's harmless or not. I think that to himself, I worry. I'm not concerned with algorithm or the kind of stuff that some creators, they'll be, dissuaded from playing it. That stuff doesn't concern me, but it's concerning. So huge trigger warning here, you guys. And yeah, it's very troubling. I don't like it. Not gonna lie, I don't like it one bit. But it's out there, so we're gonna try to put the fire out before it really gets going. So here we go.
Hello, people. I want to tell you about Jack and Lily. I never met them. I don't know them. All I know, I was coming back from the graveyard up in Muscatawbit, and I almost ran over a girl. I drove her to my home because she didn't want to go nowhere. She said her boyfriend threw her out of her truck. So I knew that was a lie because she was not marked up. Anyway, I brought her home and I asked her if she wanted to go and call anybody. No, no. Uh, I, uh, I, uh, I put a coffee on. I smoked a couple of joints of weed. She didn't smoke weed. She hauled a needle envelope with a powder and a bottle of Dilaudid out of her pocket. And we were talking, and I told her, I said, you need to find God. You need to get away from this shit. I don't care what your boyfriend did to you. You need to get out of it. And she was crying, and I felt so bad for her. All right. So about an hour later, I smoked dope while I was driving. Sure did. Anyway, while I was driving, I took her home up to the reserve. Anyway, to make a long story short, I never seen her again. And November the 27th, 19, no, 2022, we came home. Hold it. No, I got to back up. That's the way ahead story. I brought her home. Oh yes, I'm ahead. I'm right. All right. She called me about 3 months later on my birthday, November the 27th, 1922, asked me, can she come over and spend the night? I said, yes. If you're drunk, you're high, whacked out, no. No. I'm not into drunken women and whacked out women, okay? If I want a pig, I get my own. But anyway, let's make a long story short. I said, okay. She goes, well, I'm going to get my friend to drive me over. He lives down the road from you. And I said, don't bring him in my fucking yard. I'll tell you right now, don't bring nobody in my fucking yard. She said, well, can I meet you at Union Center? I said, sure can. So I got in the car. I smoked a couple of joints again. You know that. That's me. That's Vince Maury. And I went down to the Union Hall. There was a black truck. There was a trailer. We got out of I got in the car. She got out of the truck. He got out of the truck. I passed her stuff because that's what she wanted. And she passed it to the guy. Now it's nighttime. I don't know. In the law, you can't prove that because it's darkness, kind of a little bit of light. Was it him exactly? I'm not 100% sure. But when I passed the stuff, she passed it to him. I went over and we shook hands. And I said, where are you from up here? He said, I live on the Lansdowne Station up the other side of the track. Oh, okay. I never thought nothing of it. And then she come here and she was straight. We both had a shower. She was clean. We made out. I'm a lucky guy. Fuck, I'm 49 and she was 25. I was a lucky guy. Anyway, let's make a long story short. That morning she was cooking me breakfast and, me smoking my dope. That's Vince Maury. Uh, 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 she was doing my dishes. I got lots of pictures of it. That's not a problem. So I'm not telling us. I am telling a story, a true one, and so I can talking to her because she knows my partner who passed away with cancer home in bed with me. She knew her, all right, because that's how she got my number. There's more to this story than I can say right now. She anyway. I told her about my partner who passed away, why she was leaving him, because he was diddling kids up in Muscatawbit. I have a laptop here that can't get it on. that she hid, and she hid it until she moved out of there. And I got the laptop. All right. Uh, she reported him to the police. She reported him to the school. She reported to a couple of neighbors, and no one did nothing about it. All right. I said, let it go. Nothing you can do. So anyway, she told me a story right after that, because she knew what I was talking about. And we're talking about something now up in Muscatobit, but this ex-husband. She said, "Oh, I'm going to take these two little kids," she says, "from this place," she said, "because they're being a physical and mental abuse." And she was straight when she told me. She wasn't high. She had no drugs with her. She gave it to him, I guess. I seen it. Well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I said, "You can't do that. That's kidnapping. That's kidnapping." I said, "You need to report this and make sure they're doing it at the same time. Just don't report, because they might not be home." You get my drift? You got to think like I do. And that was it. I drove her back up to the reserve and a couple places, and I came home, and I have talked to her again. I think I seen her again. Yeah, I did. Yeah, she called me, pick her up, and I went back and picked her up. She was all whacked the fuck out. The time I got home, I drove her back, and I wanted to throw her out of the fucking truck because she was a retard, but I didn't throw her in the truck. I took her back to Stewiacke, and I dropped her off at the service station up there. Now I remember that. Yeah, it came right back to me. My video camera came on, and 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 then I never heard of her. And then I offer her a job here because I need help. Continues care, BON won't come here because I told them that they messed up on the 20s, that the mass shooting at the 27 people, they all messed up. They didn't do the job. They could have saved 27 people. But anyway, make a long story short, I tried to call her and tell her. She wouldn't talk to me. She said no. She said, "I got to be careful texting you," stuff like that. So I knew what was going on, but I didn't exactly knew what. But I found out anyway. Okay, you'll see here soon. But that's the story. That's the story. Now, do I know Daniel? No. I met him for 1 second. No, second, 1 minute, maybe. That's it. Shook hand. I told him. That was it. Never knew him. I never knew he lived up there. Now, the only one I really know is Brad Wong, and I don't know him. I know of him. I know a couple other guys that does crime, home invasion, and got away with it because they work with the RCMP. I knew this. That's why I didn't call the RCMP the first day I heard this. I was waiting for them to come to my house because I live down the road and I'm Vince Mallory. And I don't give a fuck, and they know that, all right? They know that. I don't give a fuck for them piece of shit. I know they're involved. I knew this way before these kids went missing. These fucking creeps were involved with the RCMP. I have evidence on the RCMP. New Brunswick, lawyers, doctors, prosecutors, judges, politicians. I know. Back from the 80s, Crime Stoppers came out, and trapping came out. I know. All right. There's only one way they're going to stop me is kill me. And they ain't got no fucking balls, okay? When they beat at me in prison and all that, the guards beat at me and raped me. Do you know what I'm saying to you guys? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I got no help. I'm sorry. I was still getting missing. I should have been looked at. They should have came in and searched these property. I told the detectives a month ago my land would never skirt behind me because this is the number one hot spot for hot stuff for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. All right. I know I caught them in my woods. All right. I got 7 fucking dogs. My
I think that's enough. You guys don't want to watch the last bit. It gets worse, and it's not about Jack and Lily. My problem with this is the dates. He met a girl, he picked her up after her boyfriend threw her out of a truck in 2022. And I don't know that he specified anything happening more recently, but we have to remember how old Jack and Lily are. Too young. for this to even be relevant to them, even if it is true. And not just that, he's clearly not okay. And I do know that there are people out there locally who know him, and yes, wellness checks have been done. He allegedly flushed all of his medication last week. It's sad. It is tragic. And if this is the reality that he lives in, I cannot imagine how terrified he must be on the daily. So you've seen it. Be kind, because he's clearly suffering, but disregard, in my opinion. I've heard the regular people say, even if half of what he said is true, the RCMP need to look at it, and I think we'd be foolish to think that they wouldn't. It doesn't sound to me like he's a habitual reporter, tipster, so I didn't want to play it, but at the same time I did want to play it. I wanted to get it out there. It's kind of the elephant in the room in the community. This live was done maybe 2 hours ago. And I wish him the best. And if you do have access to him, do regular checks. Because yes, April, you're exactly right. This is going to take away from what actually happened to Jack and Lily and more viable possibilities, and literally giving the family more heartbreak. Just my opinion. So whenever Travis is ready, we can get started. I want to go through not really quickly, I guess, but I want to say hi to everybody. And I mean, if you don't like what I just played, I apologize. I struggled with it, but I thought best to put it out there, and because it's going to be out there, and I'd rather be one of the first to say I do not believe any of this is relevant to the Jack and Lily disappearance. Not saying that he's lying or wrong or mistaken, but I think the dates don't add up, and I think that he's struggling, and it's sad. Hi, Sarah and Romo. Love that you're here. Hey, Wolfie, thank you. And Marie, hi. Okay, so Travis is here. He's backstage. Carol. And who else? Ori, hi. Not reading your comments. I want to get on to more fun things for me. So if you guys aren't aware, hey, Addie and Lynn, Mary, Johnny, great to see everybody. Seawood, hi. Hi, Mary. And so if everybody's not aware, Travis is a lawyer from the United States. And oh, doesn't that figure? Anyway, I've been connected to Travis for, I think, the better part of 2 years now. We covered a lot of the Delphi court documents where there was just a ton, and it was very legalese, and a lot of our viewers didn't understand what they were reading. So Travis was able to come on and go through everything and kind of explain it all to us. So I know that the court documents in this case, they're not as hard to understand, but maybe the Missing Persons Act isn't well known. And I think there's some value in talking about that stuff with somebody who knows what they're looking at. So, hey, Travis. I think you're muted. Unmute.
Hey
There you go.
there, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I saw you yesterday on criminality. I think it was yesterday. You were doing the deposition read yesterday, the day before. Can't remember.
Yeah, with I was on Teresa and Sleuthy because they were going to do a depo, but they got about a page into it and figured out that they'd already read it before. And so they said, hey, come on. And then I did. I thought we were going to answer a couple of legal questions, which is what they're doing again tonight. I think they have Kara Winke on.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and a couple of others, and talk about Indiana law and the status of that appeal and whatnot. But so now I popped on that, and they had a person on that was kind of talking about their experience on social media and their theories, and so it kind of diverted to that. But yeah, this poor guy that you showed the video. So he created his own YouTube channel and recorded that recently.
Yeah, it was just a couple of hours ago.
Oh, really?
It looks like his YouTube channel it's not new, but he doesn't upload anything regularly or anything. But
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's just no question that our CMP would be following up on something like that. And then also that I think it was good that you showed it, because if that's resonating with someone, because it happens in all cases, you get confirmatory bias. Those that like to develop a theory or come up, with a theory of what happened. Just the way we're wired is, if you're not constantly vigilant about being susceptible to confirmatory bias, even someone that has those challenges and whatnot, the way we're wired, you still kind of latch onto that. So if that's ringing a bell for anybody and going, I knew it, that connects A to B to C to D to E to F, I would go back and reassess your theory and see if it's just confirmation bias, or if there's something really there.
Yeah, and especially in a case like this, in a country like this, where we're all constantly starving for more information, something like this comes out and it's like, oh, well, that must be what happened. And then they run with it, and all these wild theories and absolutely unfounded speculations just.
It happens in every case, as you well know. I mean, you've seen it, same as me. And unfortunately, it gets people entrenched, and or they become entrenched, and anybody that disagrees with their theory, some folks, I mean, it just becomes very, very upsetting to them, and you've seen it all. So,
Yeah.
Don't need to tell you, but yeah, that's just one of the things that kind of happens. The main thing is, and I've seen it happen to investigators, they get
Oh,
tunnel
really?
vision, and that's really where it gets scary, because that's what frequently leads to a wrongful conviction, is if there. And we just had one in Austin, Texas. The yogurt shop murders got solved, and there was confirmation bias at certain times in that investigation. And what it took is somebody years and years after the case. I think that happened in 97.
Yeah.
It just got solved, but he got on the cold case unit about a year or so ago and just started from scratch and didn't have any preconceived notions about anything. Whereas one of the cold case detectives that came on as part of the HBO series, right? It's an HBO 3-part series that just came out
Yeah, I
last
think,
month.
yeah.
So he was fresh eyes, but he was operating under the theory that this group of people, 20, 25 people, including the 2 that had been convicted, this group contains the right person. We just need to figure out, who we missed or so on and so forth. So that's confirmation bias. And, whereas the detective who solved it, and he readily admitted it took a team of people to do it with other agencies and so on and so forth. But he didn't have anything preconceived, not even that they had convicted the right guys. He had no vested interest in that. And lo and behold, it's somebody that came into town apparently with a construction job, committed the murder, left, and so therefore was never looked at. And so, also one of the things he did is he put out an MO, and then that's what led to solving the crime. Do you have, any cases where, it listed everything, tied up with their own clothing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
Right.
then somebody said, yeah, this is what we got. And oh my gosh. And we arrested that guy. And, anyway, so yeah, you hope that the key investigators don't get tunnel vision, don't get confirmation bias, because again, the way we're wired, you see these things and it just keeps reaffirming over and over. I knew I was right. I knew my hunch was right. And to the point where you're building up to absolute certainty, even though you're going in the wrong direction. And so,
And the longer it goes, the more, convinced people are of these absurd
yeah,
storylines.
yeah.
So what did you want to hit on first? Did you want to go through the
Let's go
document that
through
you?
the act, and we've been talking about this a while. That there's speculation or theorizing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We all do that all the time. That the reason why someone hasn't been charged criminally yet, and maybe even somebody specifically haven't been charged criminally yet, is because it's easier for them to get information under the Canadian Missing Persons Act. And then Nova Scotia, is it their own, or they just adopted the national one?
They're very similar.
Yeah,
Every
that's what I
province has their
thought.
own, but it's the
Yeah.
federal, takes precedence, but they'll go by the provincial, but they all read the same.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'll look into it. And it's about the time you had gotten the documents, and So starting to go through them, and then there was an application for one, and
Mhm.
I'm like, these are not easy to get. So I'm not buying the theory that they haven't charged anybody criminally yet because it's easier to get an order. But so yeah, I thought we'd go through the act and just kind of go through it.
I
I don't
think
think we
that's
need.
a really great idea to get, you know, to get all of us kind of on the same page, because everybody has a different idea of why it's still a missing persons act investigation. But before we get started, I just want to point out again that up until the last time, I think it was John who did that TV interview, and he didn't really have a whole lot to say. The only really useful thing that I took out of it, he made a point to call it a missing persons act investigation. Up until that point, it was always, this is still a missing persons investigation. But he inserted the word act there, and that stuck
Okay.
out to me. So it was the only time they said act, right? So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's still.
I think if I'd have heard that too, it would have said, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, this is something specific, and so when we go through it, we'll see what that means.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read the parts that you've got highlighted, and then you can make your comments as to why you highlighted them. Does that sound good?
Yeah, so the first thing is looks like they first enacted this back in 2012 and
Mm,
probably updated, but 2A is, I think, the first thing I highlighted, and
yeah.
it defines a missing person. Um, Pretty straightforward. The whereabouts are unknown, continue to be unknown, despite reasonable efforts. And we'll see this in the application that they lay out what the reasonable efforts were. Reasonable
Right.
efforts haven't been made to locate the person whose safety and welfare are feared given the circumstances. So obviously, children, uh, that's going to be present. Don't really need to show that. Probably just need to list their age. And there's an urgency or necessity to locate. And so that's pretty straightforward. And then D is a vulnerable person. And so if it's not a child, if it's an adult who's had a guardian appointed, maybe somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia,
Mhm.
or or who has been found to be in need of protection by the Ministry of Community Services. I don't know what that is, or the Adult Protection Act. Um, but obviously, um, it needs to apply to adults who, I mean, we're all familiar with people,
Mhm.
maybe even our own neighborhood. They're out wandering around in their bathrobe and slippers, and
Yeah, but I don't understand why they would list them
that's
as
a problem.
vulnerable
Here,
persons
I think we
then.
call that say that again.
I just said I don't understand why they would list these children as vulnerable persons, because they're not.
I don't think they did. Did they?
He put
I
out
don't think
a
they did.
vulnerable persons alert instead of an Amber
Oh,
Alert.
I don't
So,
know. I don't know
yeah.
how things work there on that. I did research the Canadian Amber Alert and the criteria, but
Mhm.
I couldn't locate enough on it. I did see that there was certain criteria. Which this happens in Texas too. Once in a while, they don't get listed because there's not enough information about the vehicle,
Right.
and you and why they're why they need to be strict about that is it's this phenomenon when you get emergency alerts, and we have the same for elderly, vulnerable people. I think they call it a gray alert or something. Anyway, so a silver alert is what they call it. Silver hair, I guess. Anyway, there's this thing we had with the massive storms and flooding we had 4 or 5 months ago that they announced that the severe flooding alerts, they don't, they pulled back the number that they sent out because they found that people were discontinuing the service. They were getting too many false alarms, too many alerts.
Right.
And so people just kind of ignored them. And so, you know, they want, I mean, ours are loud. I'm sure your phones are the same. When we get an Amber Alert, it's really annoying. Our weather and flood alerts are the same thing. But, you know, we're not bombarded with them. 1 or 2 a month and that's all of Texas. They're just really, really care. And then they list everything: make, model of car, who the child's with, so on and so forth, which they don't have. So, you know, I can't speak to that, or, you know, I'm sure Canada cooperates with the Amber Alert system in the various states that border Canada, just because they probably share that network. For example, Windsor and Detroit have got to be connected in some way, because I mean it's just right there. Anywho, so that's who it applies to. So it's limited. You can't just if somebody's, quote, missing and they're an adult and they don't fit the vulnerable category, can't start searching through all of their stuff. There's got to be an urgent need. So number 4, subsection 1, it's only a member of a police agency may apply. So a family member can't do it. That's a whole separate process in the States, as well as I'm sure in Canada. And then 4, subsection 2, application for a search order or record order may be made to a justice. So it requires it be made to a judge without notice in the manner prescribed by the regulations. So you can apply to a judge without notice, same way you would get a search warrant. You don't have to give the homeowner notice that you're applying for a search warrant of that home. Don't have to give notice to a homeowner that you're going to search their land or their house. Same on the records.
I mean, I know that you're, you know, United States, but does that differ from the criminal code? Does it differ in the United States? Do you guys have a missing persons act or regulation there?
If we have a similar act, which I don't even know if we do, it would be state by state. I'm not aware. You have to get a judge to sign an order, and you can get one for triangulation and geolocation. And so we do have something similar. And you just fill out an application. It's got to be law enforcement. They fill out a deal, and then they can send that to AT&T, and then AT&T will follow up on it and get you the info they do require a warrant, but it's a real simplified one, and it's not technically a warrant. It's just emergency order, but so there must be some sort of federal act that says a telecommunications provider can provide information if they're given an order signed by a judge. I don't know if they're required to, but they all do. I know that. So our big ones are AT&T and can't remember.
I'm sure
There's two or three, but anyway, so it's very similar here. You don't have to, there doesn't need to be a criminal case. There doesn't need to be a criminal search warrant. So yeah, that is very similar. And just speaking about only to getting geolocation or a ping information, there's an easy, simple process to do that. I don't know about more in depth in the States or in Texas that we'll be getting into. You can get a lot of information in Canada if you meet the criteria. That answer that question?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
It's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it did.
All right. Number 5, upon application for a search order, a justice who is satisfied on considering information provided under oath, that's a biggie, that there are reasonable grounds to believe that a missing person who is a minor, so it applies to minors or vulnerable people. It's kind of confusing at the top, but those were just definitions. So the Missing Person Act, from what I can see here in Canada, only applies to minors, which is that under 18 in Canada or under 17? Anyway, or a vulnerable person, adult who's got memory problems or been put under a guardianship. So if they have reasonable grounds to believe that children might be in a dwelling or other premises, and make an order authorizing members of police agency to enter by force if necessary the dwelling, and search for the missing person. So that's key there. If they do get an order to search for missing person, that's very specific. Search for the missing person, meaning, yeah, if they have to get the order, which I'm assuming that means either they want to do it by surprise without tipping off the person, or the person wouldn't voluntarily let them search, so they go and get the order. They can't be looking in drawers, and
they have to be looking for the person and it's a reasonable location for that person.
Closets, under the beds, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So number 6, upon application for a record access order, justice satisfied access to and were requested copies of any of the records set out in subsection 2, which is below, may issue a police agency, may assist that the information, the records may assist the police agency in locating the missing person and are in the possession or control of the person, can give an order. And then a record access order may be made in respect of And if you look at this information, it kind of makes sense. Charmaine, you familiar with these missing person investigations, the kind of information
Mhm.
that they're looking for, however they get it, either voluntarily, by consent, or ultimately by a search warrant if a criminal case is filed.
Right.
This all makes sense. So, contact or identification information, that's going to be leaning more towards adults that may have information or have taken custody of those kids. B, telephone and other electronic communication records, including without limitation, the generality of the foregoing, records related to signals from a wireless device that may indicate the location of the wireless, the geolocation, cell phone records, inbound and outbound text messages, and then internet browsing history. I mean, they cover all of the normal things you see. Now, the one question I don't know the answer to is to get to do a ping or get geolocation that, like we do in the States, that a peace officer can run it by a judge real quick. Super simple. The phone companies provide the forms, and then they get a judge to sign it, which they can do remotely, and then they fax that to the phone company, and then they do that. So I don't know if that means in Canada they have to go through this process.
Yeah, they would. It's the same thing once the system, like once the judge has signed the warrant, I guess, or the
Mhm.
search warrant,
Yeah,
it would be expedited, but I think the issue here sometimes is it's not as easy to go in front of a
right,
judge here, and that's where I thought the Missing Persons Act was beneficial in that it kind of cut through some of that red tape where they could go to a justice of the peace instead of the actual
right.
court.
No,
So, but I could be wrong.
yeah, no, I think you're right, because I did find the regulations, and they had forms that were attached, and
Mm,
although the one we're going to be reviewing is very intricate and comprehensive, um, I think initially, and what we're talking about is this 2B small I, records related to signals from a wireless device that may indicate the location of the wireless device. I think you can probably get that info by using the form, checking the boxes. The peace
mhm,
officer signs it, gets the justice to sign that, and then there's a form order that the judge can just check a box and
right.
then sign it, and then they could send that to the phone company. The other stuff, I think a judge would want more background, which we'll see in a minute. But so subsection C is global positioning system tracking records. So, that's historical
Mhm,
data, video records, including closed circuit television footage. I know there was video, I think, from a Walmart, and another one. It's the other one that gets mentioned a lot because that's the last video footage of Jack and Lily. I can't remember the store. Dollar
or
General?
Dollarama, Dollarama, yeah, same thing as
Dollarama.
a Dollar General. Yeah.
Records containing employment information. I think that's going to be primarily with regard to adults who may have been, have kids. if they miss work on a particular day, like when the kids went missing, that would be what that's about. F, records containing personal health information. I think that, sorry about that. That'll be over in a second.
Mhm. Yeah, and then records containing employment information too that could pertain to witnesses. I do know that there were obviously people interviewed where some of the places that Daniel and Malia had gone on Wednesday, some of those businesses obviously were interviewed, and if they had to, verify employment or whatever, if the employer wasn't cooperating or giving over the information, they had this section in the act that they could most likely, subpoena that warrant or whatever. I would think.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm pulling my PDF back up. Then school records, yeah, important. When were the kids last in school, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So pretty much the standard stuff, and then that's all you can get, except there's a catch-all. Any other records specified in the order that the justice considers appropriate. So A through I are going to be considered appropriate typically, and then beyond that, the judge has got to decide. Then number 3, where a missing person is a minor, and there are reasonable grounds to believe that the missing person may be in the company of another person, the justice may order that members of the police agency be given access to, and where requested, copies of any of the records set out in the order in respect of the person who may be accompanying the missing person. So let's see, did I miss something up above? Just going back.
I think that part right here is important for some of the speculation and theories that are running wild that somebody else has the kids, and allegedly the RCMP have been given names. This tells you guys right here that they have the ability to, uh, you know, use this act to follow those tips. So
Yeah. And so it's limited, much more limited than what you could get in a search warrant. And the standard is reasonable grounds. I'm going to assume in Canada, typically to get a warrant, you need to have probable cause.
yeah,
And I don't know how much difference. So probable cause is going to be a tougher standard. And yeah, you would have to show, okay, somehow this particular individual is involved in this thing criminally. They've committed some sort of criminal act. Typically, that's going to be, they have good, solid information that a non-custodial parent has picked up the child and driven off with them.
right.
And that's what most of the missing children cases are in Canada, just like in the States. And, there's a lot of that. And so those aren't too tough to get. But when they just come up missing, it's pretty tough to get to have probable cause that somebody committed a crime, and therefore you're wanting to search.
Mhm.
So this is a really good act. It limits the info you can get, but still requires a judge to approve it, and it's got to be reasonable. And we'll see that in practice when we get to the application. Did you have anything on that, Charmaine?
No, just personal, like I find probable cause can be very subjective depending on the RCMP officer that you're actually dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they remember the standard that they learned in their schooling and training, and it becomes, like I said, more subjective. So depending on the officer that's dealing with these tips, I guess, whether to push it forward to, follow it down as far as to get a warrant for whatever, I think is very subjective, which could also be playing into a lot of the speculation, the loose ends that
Yeah.
never seem to be answered.
Yeah. So outside of, well, we'll wait till we get to the application, and we'll see at the time of that application, we're going to get into that there was 2 prior ones, and that was easy. And then we'll kind of maybe hypothetically talk about some others that may be much, much more difficult under the act. Because this is limited to locating them. And if they can't get cooperation for either records or access to look, this is the vehicle that you can use, the method to get that. Number 4, a record order, justice may impose any restrictions or limits on the records to be produced that the judge thinks appropriate. And then I'm down to what is that? Bye-bye. Thank you. See you soon. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you, you too.
Number 7, notwithstanding Section 26 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, which I know is what you're referring to a lot, Charmaine, when you say in Canada, we really protect records. The Municipal Government Act, which I assume is like an open records act for governments. Records obtained by a police agency under this act, the Missing Persons Act, may be used only for the purpose of locating a missing person, a purpose for which the information may be disclosed under 8, which we'll get to. And then it says when or if a missing person investigation, and again, missing person by definition of this act is either a minor or a vulnerable person, becomes a criminal investigation. So this isn't going to apply if somebody's wife is missing. This section does not prevent information and records obtained by a police agency under the act from being used in the criminal investigation. So what that says is if ultimately there is a criminal investigation, whatever they got, they can use it as part of that.
So this far, Travis, have you seen anything that sticks out to you as maybe a explanation as to why it's still a Missing Persons Act investigation, even though, I mean, it's speculating, but even though, I mean, kids don't just evaporate, right? And I think that they have covered the woods, and a lot of people think, including myself, that other than the kids wandering off on their own and still not being found, there is some kind of a criminal element to this. I mean, the only way there's no criminal element is if they wandered off into the woods. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand the benefit of keeping it a missing persons act investigation at this point.
Yeah, they don't have enough for probable cause to charge anybody. That's why.
For sure, but I guess I would have to look
I
more into the
think they
criminal.
would leave it open. If they need to apply for more records, they're going to say it's under the Missing Persons Act.
Mhm.
And there's no limit, but the act doesn't, it just sets forth the criteria where you can either gain access to a dwelling or other property or get records. It doesn't have to be an open missing persons investigation. That's, to me, based on the wording of the act, that's simply RCMP's, the way they categorize it. It's an open missing persons act, open missing persons case, but that means nothing in terms of the act.
Right.
And
No, to me, it really means nothing as to what it's not painting a picture of what the RCMP are investigating. Like we can't pigeonhole their investigation based on this act and
right,
the
so
language they choose to use.
yeah,
To me.
the way I read the act, they could have a team of investigators that are looking into this criminally,
Mhm.
and can use the information obtained thus far. Although I know based on your coverage, I believe, they've indicated that there's, from what you've said, that there's just not enough there to charge anybody at this point.
Mhm.
But they could say, well, have we eliminated so-and-so, or what do we know about so-and-so? Well, they wouldn't let us on their property. Okay, well, do we have enough just to go look real quick? But as time goes on, the way this act reads, it's easier to get the application approved within, the same day or within days of it. As time goes on, it's going to get more and more difficult because the urgency diminishes. And I would think, the justices, if they're looking at it, it's going to get to a point, okay, well, why do you want to go look at, why do you want to go dig up something in this person's yard? I don't think that would get approved under the Missing Persons Act, because the whole thing's designed to be able to get information to, find the whereabouts of the children, specifically that they're with an adult. And then also you can kind of see that it's also to eliminate things, getting information that would eliminate, okay, well, we don't need to waste our time on that. And then when we look at the application, much of the information that they got was by consent. At the time of the application we're going to review, they've only done 2 prior ones, and it was that third. and we'll go through what they were, but I mean, they were really easy. I think the one we're going to go through is in May.
Mhm. Yeah.
Has there been any since then that we know of?
No,
Yeah.
not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. I think, and I think they got the stuff that would help right away. And they've gotten cooperation on the other part. And so I'm just really not buying that it's not criminal solely because they want to keep it under the act. If they've got probable cause,
Mhm.
somebody on that property, especially where Jack and Lily live, or in the surrounding area, if they had probable cause on somebody, they're gonna issue the warrant, arrest them, because you can't have somebody that dangerous
Yeah.
floating around in the area.
And now I'm questioning whether or not this missing persons act relies on probable cause or is it reasonable grounds? Because I can't remember, but there's something about this act that makes it like everything is a lower standard to get the search warrants and the documentation that you need. So I'm wondering now.
Well,
Now that
yeah, I assume it's probable cause in Canada, and then the act is reasonable grounds.
right. Okay.
I'd have to pull up cases in Canada to see what the difference is, but
Mhm.
I don't think there's that much difference. The key really is what you can get, and we already went through that. So
Yeah.
you can't get DNA, you can't get blood, you can't get, um, you know, can't get that stuff through a Missing Persons Act application and order. Now, I guess under this catch-all, maybe it's anything else that the justice feels appropriate under the circumstances. I seriously doubt that means you can get DNA. I mean, you can't even send out a lab team
Right.
to collect stuff,
Right.
assuming the person doesn't consent. Now, if the homeowner, landowner consents, they can get anything and everything they would like, no problem.
Right.
But
Right.
if they're like, no, you're not doing this or that, then no.
And I mean, that's another roadblock that they can get, and that's why I'm convinced that they would just get the warrant no matter if they had consent or not, because
Right, right,
once you find something, if they revoke their consent, then you have to stop what you're doing and leave, right? It's always
right. Yeah.
they're going to have their warrants in place before even if Janie and Daniel said, "Sure, come on in," they would have had their warrants before they went on there. Because you don't want to have to stop doing what you're doing to go
Yeah,
and
exactly.
get a warrant, so
Now, here, if they were off the property and trying to get back in, and they asked as they approached, hey, we'd like to search your house for them real quick, just see if you missed anything.
Mhm.
Will you consent? And they said no. Here in the States, they could prevent the owners from re-entering the property until they got a warrant. And they'll frequently use that and say, well, look, we're not going to let you back in. I understand you don't have to consent, but if you want to, you don't have to wait for us to get a warrant. But they have to apply for and get a warrant within a reasonable time.
Right.
Which, cases have said an hour or two is reasonable. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. If they think there's something that could be destroyed, and what that's going to be in the category here is like computer searches and whatnot, and destroying a hard drive or something. But they can get it. They can get it so quick and easily. But I think you've got to show more and more information to the justice in order to get the order.
Yeah.
So I'm at 8, and I put a red rectangle around this because any information which you keep bringing up or record obtained by police agency under this act is confidential and may not be disclosed except in accordance with this section. And they can only disclose it for the purpose of locating a missing person or a use consistent with that person. So that might be photographs that get released to news agencies and different outlets when required by law. I have no idea what that would be. Sharing it with other law enforcement in Canada or in another country, those border areas, or they consent with if the information is about the children, hey, can we share this with news agencies? And the parents consent, or it's information about that person. Hey, can we share this? If they consent, then it can be shared. Now I'm down to subparagraph 3.
And I think that's probably what we're seeing right now with the further unredactions that we're waiting for that we've heard. There hasn't been consent by one party. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I know
And
everybody
yeah.
expecting this new rash of unredactions to come in, but one party has refused.
I don't know who it is. Doesn't matter to me.
I mean, according to Daniel, it was a way
I wouldn't consent to that stuff being out there,
Yeah.
But on my phone, I'm talking to clients, and there's a lot of, I've got to protect client information and so on and so forth. But, I know the typical response is to try and, that there's a takeaway if they won't consent to the release of the records. And that may be true in general. I don't think so in this case when you look at what they consented to in the application. But the information they can give out under the act without consent may release the following information under the act in respect to missing persons through media release by posting or informing on a website or any other manner the agency considers appropriate, the names, physical descriptions, photographs, information about the medical condition of the missing person that poses a serious or immediate threat to the person's health, pertinent vehicle info, the location where the missing person was last seen, circumstances surrounding the disappearance of the person, and a police agency may publicly announce that a missing person has been located. So we're going to see in the application that that's why I think this a lot of it was not redacted, because it meets this G here, small g, the circumstances surrounding the disappearance of the missing children. They cover a lot of that. And then again, they can give it to other agencies. And then number 6, where a missing person becomes a criminal investigation, again, it does not prevent the disclosure of information, records obtained under this act for the purpose of the criminal investigation. Nothing in this act compels the disclosure of any information or record that is restricted from disclosure by a legal privilege. So this thing's not going to get around emails between a lawyer and a client, for example.
Right.
And then number 10, I didn't highlight any of that. It didn't really matter. Number 11, any person who willfully contravenes section 7 or 8. So this not an inadvertent release of info, which happens all the time. They forget to redact something, but a willful one that they release cell phone records and the person didn't consent, but they did it willfully because their subject is guilty of an offense and liable on summary conviction. I don't know what that is in Canada, to a fine of not more than $10,000. Doesn't look like any jail time, but the agency or the detective could be fined. No action or proceeding may be brought against a member of a police agency or any other person in respect of anything done or omitted to be done in good faith under the act. So that's restatement of sovereign immunity, and it doesn't create any liability. So if it was maybe a stretch to get a particular record or entry on property of a particular person, they can't sue because they got the order. They can't sue the judge. And then not getting an order to search a particular house doesn't create liability either. And then the governor and council may make regulations. I've pulled them up, but that pretty much covers the Missing Persons Act in Canada and Nova Scotia. And we can see if you or anybody in chat has any questions about that in general or comments, and then we can go to the app real quickly, application.
I don't have any questions about that. Just I'm not sure about the states, but here a summary conviction is a conviction that wasn't indictable. It's less serious, and the fine would be no more than $5,000.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's the same in the states or if.
Well, and here we've got 3 levels. We've got, felonies, misdemeanors, and then those are either classified as the lowest level misdemeanor, which is punishable by fine only. And then, and we have infractions.
Right.
It sounds
Okay.
to me like it's like illegal dumping, especially in a waterway. Like if a company illegally dumps chemicals in a waterway, or a homeowner pours chemicals in a waterway, there's huge fines. You really don't go through a court process. It's an administrative process, and it happens very quickly. So that's what it sounds
Right.
like to me from what you described. So on this application, records access order, it's 41 pages, by the way, and it's prepared by Corporal, is it Curl?
Yeah, Pearl.
So this first part's the actual order, and order was made by a justice pursuant to the act that we just went through, and then upon being satisfied and considered the application, access to or copies of records requested in that application may assist the RCMP in locating the missing persons. Did you ever figure out what records they were seeking in this? I don't know enough about the case to figure it out.
Well, I know that they wanted banking records, obviously, the cell phone data, the Google Maps. I don't know if that was just metadata from the phones. Text Plus they wanted, and then there were like a bunch of redactions from like places in Montreal, and just bizarre. But yeah, like bus records, like it's very strange to me because everything is, or a lot of it is redacted, but just the typical records that you would be looking for in any investigation to, you
Yeah,
know,
so I don't think they did a laundry list here. I think so on page 1 of the order, we've got upon being satisfied, having considered application, that access to or copies of records requested in the application may assist RCMP in locating the missing persons. And it says records of the types of those requested are in the possession or under the control of the following. It's just one line. So it's just one entity, and they're located in Montreal.
But I mean, this could be as simple as, say, Daniel uses Scotiabank, and their main office could be in Montreal, right?
Right.
Or we've got a thing, it's called Iron Mountain here, and that's where all of archived banking records and financial records are stored for banking institutions. So
yeah, and then so access to or copies of the records indicating below that contain information about, it's got Lily and Jack, and then down to the next page, and that the following records are authorized to be accessed. So we know it's one entity, and there, that's going to be that could be 10 or 15 items. That could be also a description, any and all documents relating to, and then on and on and on, including emails, electronic data. And then again, below that, it is further ordered the following terms and conditions. A, redaction shall produce. Again, to me, that's one entity.
Mhm.
shall produce the document, whether it's Iron Mountain or a bank or whatever. That B, again, one entity, the employees, servants, agents, they won't tell the person, call them up and say, hey, they're about to hit your records. And now I'm down to the next page where there's D&E and redactions. Nothing really significant there that can be produced electronically to Charlene Curl. It's dated, what's that date say? 22nd day of May, 25. And then the justice is Darlene, looks like Leahy. We know anything about her?
No,
Okay.
but so the piece, right? Not a trial court judge or.
Or
Is this
no,
the
it's
same?
LeMay, Lamey, Lamey, looks like.
Yeah.
Justice of the Peace in and for the province of Nova Scotia.
I don't know anything about her.
Okay. Want
But
me to keep
our
going, or you have
officials, they're not
anything so
elected
far?
here, so they're not public figures, right? They're not elected officials here.
Yep, that's how they are here. There's some JPs that are appointed by like the city council, and then there are others that are elected. They're countywide. But we have something similar, and there's not any website of those that are appointed. So now I'm to page 4 of the actual application. Did you have any questions or any comments? Or
Not yet, no. I'm just looking for where I can flash your name once in a while because people are asking who you are and I don't want to stop to introduce you, so I'll just flash our names once in a while.
yeah, I'm not going to go through all of this. So you've covered part of it, and it's recapping the investigation up to that point. And I know people have a lot of different thoughts about what's done and whatnot. But so this is the actual application. And applicant is Corporal Curl, and then identifying information. And they blocked out the date of birth, which they would do in Texas also. The missing persons are, and they check a box, minors or a vulnerable person. So they've been getting these because it's automatic if you're a minor that the act applies. They
Okay,
check
that's
a
good to know.
box that, go ahead.
No, that's good to know because I was actually going to say, well, how can the Missing Persons Act clearly says it has to be a vulnerable person or something else I can't remember, but
Or a
they're
minor. And
okay.
vulnerable person is only if they're not a minor. Then you've got to show that they've had a guardian appointed to them, or that they're the subject of some sort of order that they've been declared in need of assistance somehow. So
Right.
Again, it's very, very limited, and this act is, I suspect maybe it started out being minors, and then over time they added vulnerable people because they kept running into that too.
Yeah. Most
And
likely.
the whole purpose of this is not a subterfuge around the requirements to get a legal warrant. It's when time is of the essence, and there's an urgent need to locate the people as quickly as possible. And, you clearly have that with missing kids, whether it's in the middle of a city or in the middle of the woods. So I'm on page 5, records required. RCMP is requesting access to or copies of records indicated in the following list. They want it in relation to, that's one person there. And then again, a big redaction of language, of classifications of records that they want. Then below that, in relation to, that's going to be another name. That's a second person. Big old list. Then in relation to, third person, listed, a bunch of information. So it looks to me like 3 people. One of those could be a business, but looks like 3 people. Then affidavit: in support of my application, I make oath and say as follows. So again, pursuant to the act, has to be under oath. And then they start that red rectangle B between May 21, 22. What got things started? C is boilerplate language. This information may help in locating. Here, D, I have the following reasonable grounds to believe that records of the types that are subject to this application may exist and may be in the possession or control of the person. And why I thought this was important, I didn't highlight it. So we're at the bottom of page 3 of 38, page 6 of the PDF, paragraph 5. From here below is what you would see in a search warrant, and she lays out probable cause.
Right.
Which is why I said, from what I'm seeing, what they're laying out, and this would have been accumulated. So it would have started with one application. They just copy and paste that to the second, and now this is the third, and they keep adding to it, which is what they do with search warrants. Goes into her experience, her training and warrants. I'm now at the bottom of page 4 of 38. Ship definitions and abbreviations, previous applications. I'm on, so that's number 13. I highlighted it. There have been 2 previous applications under the MPA. So May 16th, got records for cell phone records. What date did they go missing?
May 2nd.
Okay. I presented an application for records access order for the cell phone records of Malia and Daniel. Don't know why that's unredacted, but okay. And then the following day, I presented an application for a records access order for school bus surveillance in the area of
Airlock.
Okay, road. And that was, and I just noticed this. The first one, A, was granted by Bruce McLaughlin, however you say that there. And then second one was by Darlene LeMay. And then this one we saw earlier is Darlene LeMay. And then They got information together from databases that they list police officers under number 16, A through M, grounds for belief, initial police dispatch. And then on and on. Let's see. I don't know why I highlighted at the bottom of 7. She woke up again when she heard Daniel yelling for Jack and Lily. She didn't think anything of it because Jack liked to look for bugs and get things. So I know there's going to be a lot of things in here that, you know, I didn't review it for that people would say that contradicts something earlier, or that doesn't make sense for whatever reason, but kind of shifted off of that. Now I'm down to page 9. I don't think I highlighted anything until the very end, but I mean, you've been through this and they've listed everything. They list the polygraph test, they list everything. They even list, and I didn't highlight it, but the corporal commented about something in a footnote and said, I think Daniel is mistaken. So they're pointing out to the magistrate, the JP, that, yeah, this is my info, but I think they may be incorrect on that, or, you know, whatever. They comment with their opinion, and they're very, very clear what is their opinion versus what's fact. I was mightily impressed how much they pointed out. For example, I'm at the bottom of page 27 of 38. It's a footnote. On May 21st, I had a second conversation with GSAR search manager Amy, who told me of the efforts made to locate Jack and Lily from 17 and 19. And a search warrant affidavit, it's very common to just generalize that without specifying. I don't know if they do that for warrants and search warrants in Canada as well, but I mean, they're very detailed on where every piece of information came from. Underwater talks about all the searches. So again, why that's important, what's been done. Now I'm at video surveillance 42, which is on page 30 of 38. Walmart and Dollarama video. I've got a question. Are these applications where most of the information's coming from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, it's solid, you know, so I mean, they even point out the weak stuff. School bus video, and let's see. And then I'm on 31 of 38, paragraph 47, a big redaction on what there were 4 things that asked you determine from review of the school bus video. I assume it's 4 things because they've listed A, B, C, and D. Went out and searched Canvas. So they're now, let's see if there's anything. We'll just get to the end and I'll make a couple of overall comments. just laying out everything. 55, paragraph 55, which is towards the bottom of page 34, 38, time frame, requested time frame. I've read the blank case and I'm aware and have drafted this application with the 7 guidelines. Okay, so there's a case in Canada, apparently, that talks about the guidelines for doing these applications. And that'll be something I'm going to make a note to try and find for a later show. But I've read the something case and I'm aware and have drafted this application with the 7 guidelines for police. And then that'll also help us figure out what's the difference between getting an application or a criminal search warrant. And there's 7 guidelines. This kind of just reaffirms my suspicion that there's very little difference in getting an order after an application like this and getting a search warrant. So my hypothesis, my educated guess is that that's not the reason why they haven't charged somebody at this point. But we'll dig into that and maybe we'll know more. I'm aware of the principles of incrementalism and minimal intrusion. I think if I search for those words, it'll get me the case pretty quick.
Yeah, and if you go to canley.com, I can send you the link later. That's where we go to find all of our case law.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a one-stop.
So I'm surprised she didn't footnote it. I mean, she's very, very good writer. Let's see. Now I'm down on the next terms and conditions. You know, this person will produce agents, keep this stuff secret. Then there's a summary. I'm now at page 36 to 38. I'm at paragraph 60, which is on 37 to 38, second to last page. Paragraph 60, I believe from speaking to blank employees as stated in paragraphs 44, 45, 46, and 47, that the records exist specifically, and this frequently happens, they'll call somebody, a bank, whatever it might be, telephone company, internet service provider, you know, I'm so-and-so with the RCMP, I'm investigating a missing persons case, and I'm looking for records. I know you may not be able to give them to me now without an order, but I just want to see if you would have that type of record because I don't want to waste your time.
Right.
And they're allowed to say, yeah, we keep records. If they have an account with us, we keep their phone records, we keep records of their calls, we keep records of their texts for so many days, whatever it might be. So the corporal verified that those records exist, specifically certain types of records have been redacted and will be in possession and control of, well, now they got 4 people. We got somebody, a person in Montreal, a person in Toronto, another person in Toronto, and a person in Halifax. So, and then at the same time, down above paragraph 62, they applied for a sealing order to protect the information. And then that if I'm the justice reviewing it and I see that there's also a sealing order at the same time that the information is going to be protected, that's going to, if I'm on the fence about it, that's going to probably put me on the side of ordering the records because they're immediately at the same time contemporaneously getting a sealing. Then she signs it under oath on the last page. It's sworn to by J.J. Jordan Carroll, a commissioner of oaths in the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia. I wonder if that's like a notary here.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Oh, okay, good. And then signs her name under oath. Yeah, that's, I think that gives us or everybody a gist of what all is required in getting an application under the Missing Persons Act. And I didn't review the other two. I don't know if they're nearly that in depth or if they were initially more like check the box forms, but they're at the stage now where it doesn't look like there's much difference to me. We'll verify that between getting a search warrant in a criminal case in Canada and getting an order under the MPA.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what I had on that, and can answer any questions or happy to hear anybody's comments if I'm not aware of
Sums it up
something.
nicely for me. Does anybody have any questions about polygraphs or anything like that you would like to ask Travis? For myself, it's hard for me to think of specific questions. When I'm not the one doing the live, like I can sit here and think of all the questions based on what was going on in chat, but I haven't really been paying too much attention to chat. So if you have a question, put it in for Travis. And then I did have this one here was about the video that we watched, the Vincent video that we watched. Addie had asked, will the RCMP address that information quickly to
What
dispel it?
what page are you on?
No, this was the video, the disturbing video that we watched at the very beginning. I had started this because I wanted
Okay.
to
I'm
answer her.
sorry. I thought you still had the document up. Gotcha.
That's all right. No, it's just I just wanted to address that, and that no, the RCMP are not going to even acknowledge that video. If like I would suspect that if he tipped in that information, they've already followed it up. It's months old, and just because Vincent hasn't seen anything done about it doesn't mean they haven't followed up. You know what I mean? So I think it's a non-issue. And then, so if DNA is required, what's the next step? How long to achieve? So anywhere from days to months, depending on the testing. I don't know specifically what you're asking. So hopefully I got that.
Did they collect DNA from somebody?
Everybody gave their samples. I know that the blanket, for instance, was sent in for forensic testing. But I mean, they don't give specific information out, right? Just like this last search by Please Bring Me Home, the coordinator, Nick, he did a live stream just to kind of answer questions and concerns about the search. And he had listed out everything that the searchers found that the RCMP did not deem to be relevant. But there were a few items that I know were found that wasn't mentioned in that. So I know that there were things that the RCMP maybe are interested in, but it all has to be tested. And there's no telling how long that's going to take to come back. Right? It could be weeks, could be days, could be months.
What was the one thing you mentioned at the start that they sent in for testing? What was the item?
The pink blanket that Daniel says was planted.
Yeah.
They
So,
did send that in.
yeah, I see people comment about that from time to time in the chat, and I've commented about it, but um, DNA is not going to be too helpful here, is it? I mean, you
No,
test that blanket, and Daniel's DNA comes back. Malaya's DNA comes back. Jack and Lily's DNA comes back. Now, it might be key if there was a unknown male contributor. That would be significant.
yeah. Or the implication was, and I think this is where Daniel was going with it. He made such a big deal out of it that somebody from Malaya's family planted the blanket, and that individual had never been to the trailer before. So if that DNA was on the blanket, obviously it would be useful and relevant information. But from my information, that did not happen. So
Yeah.
it's just a red
Uh,
herring to me
yeah.
again.
So, I don't know if there'd be other, so really in this type of case, so you'd be looking for blood or maybe a bodily fluid in a inappropriate area. Like child's underpants, that would be significant. But you're going to get presumptive tests back on that right away. I mean, it's going to.
Right.
And
what that means, guys, is if they're, if by the naked eye it looks to be dry blood, for example, on something, that would be a presumptive, and then they'll
Right.
test it. They've got chemicals that test it to say if it's human blood or not, and then they send it away for actual forensic
Right.
testing to
Right. But like
identify
that
the
blanket, they could, they could put under UV light, and then that would, it's going to fluoresce at different wavelengths for different bodily fluids. They can, it looks like it's been cleaned. They can spray luminol on it, and it'll fluoresce that way, and they can follow up with that. But all of that, they'd be able to do presumptive testing on all of that long time ago.
right. And I don't think if something came back, this is just my opinion, based on my knowledge and experience with the Canadian justice system, if something came back that pointed them in one direction to one person or not, we would never hear about that until they released a probable cause affidavit.
Yeah, you
know what I
wouldn't
mean?
hear
We're not
about it, and you wouldn't
right.
hear about it till somebody's in custody. I agree.
That's right.
They're going to get
That's
the
right.
warrant, they're going to serve it, then they're going to have a press conference.
That's right. Exactly. And even our press conferences here are pretty anorexic when it comes to giving out detailed information. Our trials are not, I mean, for a lot of cases, you can go physically into the courtroom, but there's no media cameras in there. You're not allowed to take photographs in there, no recordings of any kind. We're still very old school with the sketch and pad, and so it's a different world here than it is in the United States.
Yeah, so we're almost 6 months post. I don't know
7.
when they submitted buccal swabs for to develop DNA standards, and I don't know how backlogged their don't know how backlogged their DNA labs are there, but here it can vary between 6 months and a year if there's not a rush on it. Been I don't want to know if they're necessarily scandals, but in Austin, they were way behind on testing SA kits, SANE kits. Houston, years behind in running the SANE kits for DNA. Anywho, so yeah, there can be issues with they can get backlogged, no doubt about it.
Travis CB wants to know if you feel if it is telling that they likely did preliminary testing on the piece of blanket and then sent it away to Ottawa for forensic testing.
That's a really good question. They typically don't do that type of initial testing in the field. They would get it in a controlled environment. And so I don't know what the closest lab is there. They would package it, get it to the lab right away, and get the appropriate lab person to lay that blanket out. And they would probably start with ALS, alternate light source, which is a UV light. And you put on different color goggles, and it'll show areas that you can't see with the naked eye of staining. And then if there's sufficient enough areas, in other words, if there's just a almost near microscopic dot, just one dot, they're not going to jump in and test because you're going to consume all of it to do the test. And so you got to make sure that's done right. But if there's big blotches of areas, for example, yeah, they would cut a piece and send that off for the more qualitative, specific testing. And kind of depending on what it is in that initial test, if there's big things and it's coming back, that's fluorescing as blood. I would think that they would get that off right away versus urine. If it's presumptive for urine, it's probably not going to be a rush. And then saliva. So there's four bodily fluids right now that there are presumptive tests for. So touch DNA, vaginal secretion DNA, those things don't exist. There's no way to test and have it tell you, oh, this is from somebody touching something, or it's from a certain type of secretion. So the only four bodily fluids that there's a presumptive test for, and then ultimately a definitive test is blood, saliva, urine, and semen. So, and all of those will fluoresce under viewed through different colored glasses under an alternate light source. Blood, except blood, you do blood a different way. Spray it with luminol that reacts with the the iron that's contained, it's a chemical reaction. It doesn't alter the DNA or anything. It doesn't destroy anything. You spray that and it'll, you turn out the lights and it'll luminesce. It'll glow in the dark. So those would be the presumptive tests.
So before I get into this next question, there was something that was said earlier that the RCMP would be required to find bodies before they could charge or move forward with a prosecution. And I'd just like to say that a no body prosecution is like so difficult and it rarely happens in Canada, but they would have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt as per the Crown, what the Crown decides, right? That is beyond a reasonable doubt to go forward that foul play has occurred. So that might be evidence of a struggle, that might be a large amount of blood or something on an item found, or some kind of solid proof, but we have and can go forward without remains. I'd just like to say that before I ask question or Travis this question from Lynn. So how do police know when this becomes a criminal or do a different kind of search in homes when does probable cause case start? In your opinion?
That's a really good question. How they know is that the first step is that so it's got, well, Charmaine, you can probably answer this better than me, but so they've got to establish that they were either taken by somebody, and that you've got to have enough evidence to show that. Doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's got to be probable cause that there's video of Jack and or Lily with an adult sometime after, the time that they go missing. Or there's got to be evidence of foul play on the property or somewhere else. So, if they find blood in a quantity that turns out to be one of the kids in an area, or it's hard to talk about, but bones or cadaver that a dog would alert that's trained in cadaver scent. So, they've got to have at least that. Otherwise, it's equally as likely that they, wandered off. And the way the application's laid out right now, it's not pointing to anything. So how they know is just like with any criminal investigation. So if it didn't involve children, the act wouldn't even apply that we're talking about. So they would do everything that they possibly could until they got to the point that they had probable cause. And how do you know you have probable cause? You put it together in an arrest warrant, submit it to a judge to review, and then they either say, no, you don't have enough, get me this, or yeah, you've got probable cause, and that's how they determine it. Did I think I answered that, Charmaine, or do you have something to add to that?
No, I think you answered it as well as I could, probably better. And then, do we know if any forensic testing was done in the trailer? No, we have no information saying that. I know that the dog handlers were inside the house. I don't know if that means that the dogs themselves were inside the house, but from everything that I've heard about day one, there was really very little investigating done inside the home. But as for anything evidentiary taken from the house, I would say no, other than what was handed over as far as their electronics and anything else they asked for. They cooperated it, right? So, and it just because we don't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? So I don't know if Travis, if you have any thoughts on the absolute nothingness that we have.
No, I mean, y'all don't have everything, but boy, when you got these documents, Charmaine, you sure did get a lot. And to me, there's a consistency of what we do know in the application with the way things are moving forward. And yeah, the cases where there's no body, there's one going on right now. They never found the body of, but you read about him. It used to be, so that's a doctrine of corpus delicti, and which simply means body of the crime. And it started under the common law in England, and then eventually the UK, and then made its way over here from a very, very, very old case over there that said you couldn't prosecute somebody for murder without having the body. And the reason for the rule was to prevent false confessions. That maybe somebody of royalty wanted one of their serfs, to confess to take the heat off of them. But that's the whole reason for the rule, was to prevent false confessions. And then eventually that rule went away. Now what you need is person can confess, and that you just need one piece of corroborating evidence to show that the person is unalive, and that can be a lot of different things. It could be a bone fragment, and so that's where the rules started. But yeah, you see in movies, it's always if there's any doubt that the individual ran off with somebody else, and that's why they're not around. But the most recent big time famous case is Scott Peterson and his wife Lacey. An unborn child went missing. I'm trying to remember if they charged him before they found her remains.
They didn't.
Huh?
They didn't.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good example. You're waiting, but they were watching him like a hawk. He's under massive pressure, and then they got the information. They were able to track him going to that area, or he provided that information. He initially said, "Oh, I went to this place to go fishing." And it turns out they were able to track him some other way, that he actually went to another area. And then they hired title experts from the San Francisco Bay that said somebody putting somebody in the water in this location chances are they're going to end up around here. And then sure enough, but
Yeah.
that's all I had on that topic.
Yeah. Not seeing any other questions, but the struggle that we have, I think, in this case, even though we did get a lot of documents, a lot of it was redacted, but up until that point, since May, we had Daniel's media interviews all throughout May, one from Malaya, but Daniel all throughout May. I started talking to him at the end of May, and those messages came out. But since then, Daniel has been the one that's been giving us information, bits and pieces at a time, sometimes inconsistent, but he's the one that's been giving all of this information. And then all of a sudden we're slapped with all these court documents and everybody's going through and comparing, what they told to the RCMP compared to what we'd heard up to that point. And so I think we're better off now just understanding that Daniel is doing what Daniel is doing to keep the case out there. And I'm not, excusing,
I
but
do understand people's reactions based on some of the things he said. Not so much that as even his demeanor and the way he articulates things sometimes comes off. And that's the danger, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Why aren't they talking to anybody? Why aren't they talking to anybody? But wealthy people and city officials and government officials, they have access to lawyers immediately. The Ramseys, as soon as they cooperated with everything, but as soon as they got wind that the DA was looking at them as targets, they followed their lawyer's advice and said, yeah, we're not going to talk to you anymore. You keep telling us you want to do this in order to help us find Jean Benet's killer, but in actuality, you're building a case with us, just be straight with us. And so they shut all that down. And then it was before YouTube creators, but the typical true crime shows that had a daily broadcast were commenting about that and what it meant. And, the Ramseys sued, all of those outlets, even one on behalf of Burke. First one to sue a social media creator for defamation. And they took it all the way against that person. And, it was a reminder, even if you're a big major network, you got to be careful what you say. And then, at least in the States, now that other case that happened in Nova Scotia, is it Ellers? What was it?
Dylan Eller, yeah, Dylan Eller.
So when I was reading about that case, which is another wandering off, and they thought maybe into a river that goes all the way out to, what's that famous bay in Nova Scotia?
Funding.
Yes. But from what I can tell, there was initially a lot of heat from social media and others, not police, but a lot of heat on the parents that they were somehow responsible. And I saw that in looking at a historical overview about that case, that the parents got several, it just said social media something. I don't think it used the word creators, shut down. And I'm not sure if that's because of some law that, they got them shut down through litigation. I kind of doubt. I think it's probably some sort of complaints on whatever, Facebook, YouTube, or whatnot, but that it's reported in 2 or 3 different sources that the parents were able to get a lot of people removed or shut down or banned or whatever. But, it just kind of happens in every case, unfortunately. But I can see on some things where people looking at Daniel and kind of coming away with a suspicion, or her, but you just don't know until they release something concrete. And what they have now would be it's like a zero. And it's not gonna rise to the level of probable cause on either one of them, or the mom, Daniel's mom. It's essentially laying it all out, and they wanted to get some more records, but there's nothing in there yet that a judge would look at and go, oh, you got probable cause against this individual. And so that means they're really going to have to, now they're not stuck with that because that's an application for information under the MPA. The affidavit in support of a search warrant would be starting over and listing everything A to Z. So it's unfortunately in these types of cases, as you're well aware, Charmaine, it just sometimes it takes time. That young college student that went up to is it Memphis or Nashville?
Nashville, I think.
And he's way intoxicated, way too intoxicated. I'm surprised one of the last establishments wasn't under some sort of scrutiny for over serving him, but you see him walking down the street and then really intoxicated, and there with fellow fraternity brothers for a wedding. And he's heading in the direction of the river. There's kind of like homeless or transient people in that area, and fair amount of crime, pickpocketing and whatnot. So they thought maybe, something happened to him there. And then, but sadly, about the average number of days you would expect, given the temperature of the water, et cetera, they found him how many ever miles downstream. And, just had to wait until that played out. And then, I don't need to tell you about Sebastian Rogers. A lot of the same things. I think it was the natural mother and her new husband, the stepfather, and they didn't come across very good in some TV interviews and other interviews. And at some point, the Louisville police said, we're pretty much done. We're closed. There's no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing by any of the people, but we're gonna, keep it open until we find Sebastian, but the active investigation got shut down. But then you see people come out of the woodwork, like the different folks, and trying to help locate. And then, those broke down over, I don't know what it was, money or, publicity or, whatever it was. But unfortunately, you just see that happen. It's sad, but you're around this long enough, you just see that happen. And, you kind of learn pretty quickly who are the reputable search outfits, and it's Miller's Texas EquiSearch in Texas. His daughter went missing, and he founded a nonprofit to search for other missing people. And he's got a really good model and formula. If you want him to come and search, he came and searched for the Anthony little girl in Florida, and
Kaylee Anthony.
yeah, but he didn't put up with any BS, no drama. You want me to come and search for your loved one? This is what you need to do. And lays it all out, completely transparent. And, we'll bring a team of horses, four-wheelers, boats, whatever we need to do. And we'll leave no stone uncovered. And not that, I'm glad they at least released this application we went over briefly, because it looks to me more and different dogs sooner. They put some pretty substantial resources into those initial searches. It looked like to me. I don't know if you have a different take on that, but.
No, absolutely. Yeah, the Texas EquiSearch fella, his daughter went missing, and that's how he got started. So he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, there's
what is
good
that?
documentary
There's a
about it.
documentary. Yeah, I can't remember what the documentary is called, but it's excellent. Anyways, I'm gonna have to go here right away, but I do have one last question for you, Travis, on the screen here. If you were Daniel and Malaya's lawyer,
Yeah,
what would you be able
as
to do?
yeah, as you know, Starman, I told Daniel, I tell him to shut up. Actually, stronger than that, and until you, for the time being, until you can get help with somebody to help you formulate. Same person, Sebastian's natural father. He needed help with being able to get his message out. And I reached out to him through you and Sonny. I said, give him my phone number and have him call me, because I can't call somebody as a lawyer in the United States. It's solicitation. But I would advise them, be quiet and shut up until you can get with somebody that's got experience in public relations to get out the message you're trying to get out, and for you to understand how things you're saying can be perceived different ways. But yeah, my advice would be quiet until you can get some help doing it, so you're not sending mixed messages. That'd be my advice.
Right. And I mean, that advice would have been excellent for Daniel to heed months ago, but I truly think that his ship has not only sailed, but it has sank. it's unfortunate because it really did steer the investigation, or not the investigation, but the public view. No matter if Daniel has done something or not, there's not a lot Daniel can say now that people are just gonna believe on its face. And unfortunately, he did that to himself. So I see Belinda's
Yeah.
here. Hey, Belinda. I do have to get going. I've got my furniture is finally gonna come today, so I've got a delivery here right away. I don't really want to speak to that, Belinda, but I'll talk to you offline about that. Thank you so much, Travis, for being here. And I hear my door knocking, so I will.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me. We've been talking about doing it for a while, and then I've got a couple of other things I'm going to talk to you about doing, and I think we're going
Sorry,
to do
or I just gotta go. I gotta go. Just go ahead and do your goodbye. I'll be right back.
Okay. I think Charmaine wants us to do a Delphi summary, and then another one on the West Memphis 3. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But I always enjoy being in chat on Charmaine's channel when I can catch a live and the people in her chat. So thanks for tuning in. And I mean, y'all are really up on the case, way more than me. But thanks for your questions and tuning in. That's all I had to say. I told them we were planning on maybe you wanted me to do something with you on Delphi, and then maybe another on West Memphis 3.
Absolutely. It's all in the books. And
Yeah.
thank you very much. That is
But
my
thank you
furniture
for
at the
having me.
door. Carly is right here. Thank you again, Travis. Thanks, everybody. I will see y'all tomorrow. And have a great night, everybody. Bye.
We're going down the rabbit hole.